Hello,
Okay.
Marcus.
Hey, good to
How
see
you
you
been?
both.
Yeah, good to
I'm
see
I'm
you.
good. I'm pretty good. Yeah, so it's this whole journey is so funny to me. I'm continually finding that when I give up the goal of achieving to something,
Yeah.
um, that's when, something opens for it to actually arrive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess isn't surprising. So, I started meditating a decade ago,
Mm.
and it wasn't initially a part of, I didn't even know what awakening was. It was, this is good for your mental health, this is good for concentration, so on and so forth. And um, what I, over the 10 years, it seemed subjectively that that part of meditation that is concentration never improved.
Mm.
Mm.
I was like the monkey mind was as active after 10 years as it was on day one. Um, and I went through all kinds of phases of, discouragement and acceptance and, all this. And eventually, when I got on more on this path and learned all the different ways you know,
Yeah.
people found their way there, I was like, okay, well, maybe that's just not me,
Yeah.
and I won't worry about that. And worries about it would still flare up now and then, but I was able to just go, that's just not how my mind works. I thought there's probably some undiagnosed ADHD. But I think really what it mostly was such extreme discomfort with body sensations
Yeah.
that, of course, I was going to keep going, you know, 2 seconds of sitting with body sensations was too much. And so just thought, 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 thought. Um, and so when I found my way to sort of somatic work,
Yeah.
that was the big sea change. And for me, and I've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Um, Last week, or last time we met, I brought up how, wow, I'm able to do inquiry now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I couldn't do it. And I think it all comes down to growing comfort with everything here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the one thing that was a bummer for me about concentration was that Angelo recommends this inquiry or meditation, where you, and other people do too, where you label thoughts. You wait for the
Mm.
thought and label thought, thought, thought. And it just seemed real intuitive that that would be really good for me if I could start to develop that relationship with thought, but I'd get lost in thought if so I just kept going back to the body. So anyway, something happened a week or so ago, as with the inquiry, where I just woke up and I'm like, I'm ready to do that now.
Wow.
I don't know where that came from, but I can now, not perfectly, but I mean, honestly, for the first time in a decade, I can sit and go, oh, there's a thought.
I
Oh,
love
there's
that.
another
Yeah.
thought. Again, this is a discovery I'm sure a million people have made, 6 months into meditating or whatever. But what's kind of been shocking to me is that it feels as if I've gotten down to some atomic level of thought. I'm sure there's subatomic levels beneath
Yeah.
that, where, oh my God, it's completely random.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
completely random.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's it's uh two words from a song lyric, and
Yeah.
then, oh, that's a thought, and then a moment later, a nonsense phrase like, January chickens.
But
What's
do you know what is even more insane?
Yeah.
That those two, lyrics from a song or January Chicken, those two are just two random of a million of other thoughts that you were not even aware of.
That makes
It's
sense
so
because
crazy. You
there's
can you
also
can have you can have thoughts that are happening and you're not aware of thinking.
Right.
And suddenly there's something that is just clicking with how your biochemistry, how you have
Mhm.
slept, how you feel if the sun is shining. Everything is just clicking, and suddenly you have lyrics from a song. And then
Yeah.
something, those lyrics from a song or whatever, a smell or scent or anything, suddenly it's generic chicken. But there has been millions of thoughts in between there that you're not even aware of. And what is confusing with all of it is that we think that our thoughts are important. We think that
Hmm.
they hold some kind of truth about something. So we need to pay attention to our thoughts. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels like just these random things pop
Yeah,
up. And if I'm not going thought, some of them the mind just hooks onto,
Mm.
yeah,
and then it becomes a chain. Um, I feel like there's a slight sense of what you're talking about with the millions that, of course, I can't identify them, but there's almost a sense of something kind of boiling
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
underneath,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
bubbles up, January
yep,
chickens, or
yeah,
yeah,
whatever crazy
yeah.
thing. There's some frustration around that because it feels like everything's a thought.
But
everything
Like
is a
everything is
thought.
a
everything.
thought. So
How can I guess this is when the mind wants to like gamify it and go, oh, now the goal is to catch each thought. And I'm like,
No, no,
no,
but
but
there's no way. There's
no.
like a
Marcus,
million of them.
right now
Yeah.
you think that thoughts are just what is happening in your mind when you're thinking, but it's not. When you look at me, that is a thought. You're not
Yeah.
even hearing what I'm saying. You hear what you think I'm saying. When you look at the background, whatever you perceive that to be is a thought. There are only thoughts. There's nothing else than that. So you cannot notice all of it because most of it is completely out of your conscious mind. It's in those 95% of the subconscious. You're
Right.
not even aware. So being frustrated that you can't realize or notice every single thought, you're bound to fail with that because it's not possible.
But even worse yet, that feeling of being the one who
Yeah,
is in a shooting gallery trying to shoot every little, cardboard duck that comes up is itself part of it's a thought.
it's a
It's
thought.
part of
Right.
it, the whole thinking mechanism. So that urge to be able to seek and recognize and hear every thought is just another substratum of thought. There is no Marcus individual in there who is able to actually do that, who could tie himself up in knots trying to actually hear or see every thought or
And
experience
when
it.
and when you have a feeling of, oh, I'm absolutely failed, I meditated for a decade and only now can I think, that is a thought. And when you have, yeah, I really woke up one morning and now I can actually do it, that is a thought too. So the one that is self-deprecating and the one that is tapping himself on the shoulder, both are just thoughts about thoughts.
I think what's confused me for a long time, and it still is a little confusing, the way I hear this taught sometimes is there's a thought and there's a gap, and there's a thought and there's a gap. And I can find that now, except when I start examining the gap,
Mm.
it's filled with more thoughts. They're
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
yeah,
subtler
yeah, yeah.
thoughts. So then it's so I don't know if that's sort of a provisional
Yeah,
teaching
yeah. Really
or
overt thoughts tend to come
yeah.
with a gap, because a lot of times when people first start getting into meditation, they don't even know that they're thinking. I mean, you can have people who have spent their entire lives unaware of the fact that they've ever had a thought. And then when they start to become aware of it, then it's like, oh, that was a very explicit thought. And then there's like a moment, and it might just be, a second or a fraction of a second, and then another thought comes. So for that, there can be actually a gap. But then as you're noticing, the more and more subtle your attention becomes on the mental landscape, the more you realize it is just a cacophony of layer after layer after layer, more and more subtle bubblings and brewings of nonsense.
Even just sitting, if I right now, and this goes to all of you, if I ask you guys to feel your feet and really notice how your feet feels right now, that is a thought.
Mm.
So even when we have sensations in the body or feelings or emotions coming up or anything like that, all of that is just a thought. It's just about yeah, somebody asked about the difference between feelings and emotions, and it's just about how frequent you think it. You know, if a feeling is when something you feel something and it just comes up and then disappears quite quickly. An emotion is when we believe in the feeling, like when we start to have a personality tied in about the feeling. But both are just thoughts.
That's great. Thanks. So one last thing. For years for me, I'm sure I've talked to you about this before, meditation was an unpleasant
Yeah,
experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really curious about the part of me that like kept on meditating anyway. That's really
Yeah.
yeah,
interesting to me because there was something there that still wanted to do it,
Yeah.
but it was all about the body sensations that I was uncomfortable with. I just
yeah,
I'm going to sit here and feel terrible for, at the beginning it was for 10 minutes,
Yeah.
and that
yeah.
was almost panic inducing. Um, as things have shifted for me, it's become uh, often now there's, I guess, what I call much a pleasant feeling, but what I don't think I've ever experienced in meditation is equanimity.
Mm.
What I've experienced is two different, or probably a million forms, but forms of excitability that I could put in two classifications. There's, you know, these feelings are horrible or unbearable, and then there's uh, the rapturous, ecstatic
Mm.
Mm.
thing.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
vacillate, and there's more of the rapture now than there's ever been before, but it's like there's this level of just excitability or energy or something, and I still get kriyas. I've talked about that before, but
Yeah.
it's like there's just an excitability of this nervous system that can be, the mind can think of it as positive or negative,
yeah.
but it's not a stillness or an equanimity or a calmness. So I guess I don't really have a question other than
No,
just want to hear
no, but I have, even though you don't have a question, I have an answer. Um, it's actually the Vedanas that you talk about, that you have pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So what we just talked about, where you said that you have never noticed the pause between thoughts. The neutral is between the uncomfortable and the pleasant. Between there,
Mm.
there's a space that is neutral. So if you start to notice that neutral space in everything, also when you are cooking or walking or anything, notice, is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral? And have a focus on the neutral part.
Mm,
Because in the neutral part, underneath that is like the middle way of everything. Underneath that is where you have that stillness, simplicity, and contentment that I talk about. And that is where equanimity is, where there is
mm.
nothing right now that could be any different, should be any different. It's just exactly like it's supposed to be right now. And you find that in that stillness or that neutral Vedana.
That's great.
Love it, Marcus.
Thank you. Have a
So
great
much.
time in Europe.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much.
So
It's
much.
going to be great.
Yeah. We'll have look forward to seeing you afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah. See you in
Yeah.
June.
Yeah. And actually see you at the panel.
Oh, yeah. See
Or-
you on Saturday.
So take care.
Bye. We have created a course of our first Fetter material. This course will walk you step by step through all of the ways in which identification is created and selfing happens. If you've been struggling to see through the self structure or have that first awakening shift, this course contains hundreds of tools to help you discover the selfing mechanisms when they're happening, and then see through the illusion of identification that are created. Along with over 14 hours of videos, this $49 course contains a full book worth of summaries, extrapolations on the videos, written inquiry suggestions, and other text. So work slowly, leave time for integration. This is powerful material and it can be life-changing.